and showing up as the authentic you. So inner confidence is probably going to be different for each of us, as is authenticity. So it's the 21st of June, 2016. I'm standing in the wings of theatre, about to go on and perform. I'm not a performer. I'm not trained in dance. I'm not trained in production. I'm standing there, a bit like now, with goosebumps, shaking inside, vibrating with excitement and fear. The audience settles, the lights go down. The stage, the lights come up. I look across the room. There's Bron, and I know behind her is my daughter. In the front row is my mum and dad. They're in their 80s. The music comes on as the spotlight comes up. I look at Bron, our eyes sparkle. I sense the women behind me, and I turn. We got this. And they're like, yeah. And I step onto the stage with Bron. We strut across and down the front in front of the audience, naked, with 50 other women from the age of 20 to 70, size 6 to size 30, different race, different culture, different size, celebrating in a feminist piece what it is to be woman. So one of the things when we're being authentic is stripping back the layers that we carry, the stories that we've created from our family, from our friends, from our loved ones. So I went on a deep journey to find out what was being authentically me, and one of the ways of doing that was I took my clothes off and danced naked. I also shaved my head in an endeavour to find out who I was. Because I was 57, I'm a world champion in lacrosse, a successful business owner for 35 years. I've got the partner, the 2 children, the white picket fence, the dog, and the privilege of a mortgage. It's a privilege many don't have. And I'm disconnected, hollow, empty, diagnosed with idiopathic depression for 20 years. On massive amounts of medication, just trying to survive, and thinking I was being really authentic. I could show up with this facade, this professional businesswoman, but I wasn't being authentic. And the big thing not being authentic was I wasn't speaking my truth. Because as many of us, we feel responsible as mothers, as daughters, as fathers. So it's like working out what was being authentic for me. And as I started to speak my truth with love and compassion, everything shifted. I no longer have a mental health diagnosis. I no longer have that beautiful man as my partner. I sold my business after 35 years and 8 months and stepped into an unknown future. And for the first time, feeling authentic. And I was sitting on my bed. It's like, oh, great, sold my business, that's great. You know, feeling really authentic here. I'm on path, but I don't know what's going on. But I'm feeling more authentic and more alive than I have in decades. And as I sat on my bed, I went, okay, help me out. Help me out. What's my disruptive idea? I'm here to leave a bigger legacy. I'm here to make a bigger difference in the world. What am I here for? And it was fabulous because I got this instant download. Spruth. Great. S-P-R-U-T-H. What is it? Great, thank you. I'm really grateful, but what is it? And as I joined the dots, it was speaking truth with love and compassion. And as we start to really honour ourselves and speak from the truth of what I desire, of what I need, of what's real for me, not on that surface stuff, I'm fine, because I rock into my clinic, I'm fine, and we are on the surface. But there was a whole nother level. It's like an iceberg. Underneath it's like, ooh. So when I help people speaking their truth with love and compassion, a lot of people say, I speak my truth. And it's out there, and it's shaming and blaming and resentful. And that's not authentically who we are. It's not wrong, but it's not who we truly are in our heart. So as I start to look at speaking truth with love and compassion, when those two met, Spruth and speaking truth with love and compassion, then I felt incredibly authentic real. There were no more facades. There was no, oh, there's the champion in me there, and there's the businesswoman here, and there's my masculine here, and there's my feminine here, and the daughter here, and the mother. And suddenly it was just like, it's just me. It's just me. And then I started to look at, what do I desire? No idea. I haven't looked at that for decades. People would ask me what I need. I don't know. And I know I'm not the only one, because I'm in groups with hundreds and even thousands of women. So I know my journey is not the only one having this journey. So as we start to speak our truth with love and compassion, then there isn't that conflict. But when you're speaking truth, Plato says the man who speaks his truth is the most hated man. But the human who speaks truth is not. Because it's from love from yourself and compassion from yourself. And out of all the million things I've done, and I've done a lot of them, the way that I show up now authentically is when I'm speaking my truth with love and compassion. When I'm being really, really honest. Really, really true. Really, really trusting myself. And there's a process. It's really simple to speak your truth. It's not necessarily always easy to speak with love and compassion. It's almost like climate control. There's no longer those walking on eggshells. There's no longer that push, because it's like, I need. I feel. It takes away the anxiety. It takes away the stress. It takes away the conflict. So people are able to unite, to heal, feel empowered and connect when we speak from that. And so you can speak from that. As I said, I haven't found anywhere else that I can show up more authentically than when I'm doing that. And then I have the choice, moment to moment, do I want to live from this place? And the beautiful thing is that when I spruce, then often things that have been locked in my head and locked in my body, I speak them out and I'm like, oh, wow, there you go. It's not actually my truth anymore. So there are infinite possibilities when you start to speak your truth with love and compassion. And it's a really easy thing to go, hey, we're going to have a spruce culture from the boardroom to the bedroom. Much more fun in the bedroom if you're speaking with love and compassion. Much more success in your business if you're speaking with love and compassion and being deeply honest and being really deeply true to yourself. So now that iceberg, it's like it's flipped upside the other way. So the bulk of me, there are still things that get hidden under there that I don't realise, and I go off and explore. But the thing now when I'm being authentic is I'll start having a conversation and I'll say something, it's like this, and then it's like, ooh, that doesn't taste good, that doesn't feel good, that's not my truth. And so I don't get attached to what I'm saying, and it continually transforms. So when I start my truth, it's here. When I finish it, it's like, oh no, that's not my truth, that's not, oh, this is, for now. Because the beautiful thing when you're sprucing is your truth is constantly changing as you evolve, as you grow, as you explore, and as you expand. And again, from this place, when you're being authentic, it's much easier to show up with confidence. So my invitation is, whether it's the boardroom or the bedroom, in your organisations, in your community or your tribe, if you want to show up authentically and you want to show up with confidence, then you do it with spruce. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paula Dunn, and I'm the founder and CEO of No Limits Consulting. We offer leadership, coaching and development for girls in their senior year of high school. We're best known for helping young women overcome their self-doubt, conquer life with a confident mindset, and give tools against bullies, and show them how to unlock their magnificence so they can live a life with no limits. So in a world of fake news, fake lives and fake booze, a world where normality is keeping up with the Kardashians, how can we unlock our inner confidence and show up as our authentic selves when society tells us otherwise? Society tells us that confidence comes from what people see, hear and read about us. It comes from how we look, whether we're male or female, black or white, how we dress, how we speak, what career we have, how much money we make, what kind of car we drive, what kind of suburb we live in, and of course how many friends and likes we get on social media. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're most likely judging me now based on all of these things. Confidence comes from an external perception that's supposed to reflect our internal reality. But how many of you can be confident but not necessarily feel confident to show up as the authentic you in 100% of your life? Being authentic means coming from a real place within. It is when our actions and our words are congruent with our beliefs and values. It is being ourselves, not an imitation of what we think we should be or have been told we should be. Being authentic has nothing to do with our appearance, our careers, or our salaries. That is what we do, not who we are. So my question to you is, what are the consequences of not being confident to be your authentic you? And how many people do you think that impacts in your lives? Having the confidence to be your authentic self allows you to combine your thoughts and emotions around that authenticity. Then that authenticity is reflected in your beliefs and the decisions you make, the actions you take and every result in your life today. Now think about it, your careers. Did you go down the path because you had a calling, or was it an expectation? Or was it shaped by other people's perceptions of what they think you're capable of? In the Australian culture, if you've scored one of the highest marks in school, there is an expectation that you'll go off and study medicine or law. If you decided to pursue some other passion, people will most likely be left scratching their heads, wondering what a waste of a great mind. Now think about, what about the partner that you have? Did you choose them out of obligation, expectation, or perhaps status, or for a deep love and connection? And what about your choice of friends? Do these friends lift you up and encourage your authenticity, or do you feel like you need to put on a mask to fit in and belong? And what about your children, if you have any? What kind of role model are you being to set the stage for your daughter and your son? And most importantly, what about your mental health? Are you suffering from stress, anxiety, overwhelm and burnout, or depression? How much of that is due to your external environment being in conflict with your internal compass? Did you know that the #1 challenge women face in the world today is self-doubt? And you know, that's coming up over and over in this week's conference so far. 85% of women over the age of 40 say that they're not as attractive as the average woman. And which one of you falls in that category? I'll put my hand up. 68% of teenage girls say that they are less beautiful than the average girl. 25% of teenagers say that they would like to change everything physically about themselves. And 94% of teenagers wish some of the time that they were more beautiful. We are so focused on the external that we're missing the bigger picture, which is who we really are, our very essence, our identity, the DNA that makes you, you. I've spent unconsciously most of my life not being confident to show up as my authentic self. 43 years ago, I was born with a birth defect of my top lip called a cleft lip. So from day one, I was already authentically different from everyone else. My parents were worried about the lack of opportunities I'd have in life being born differently to everyone else. They were worried about whether I'd ever get a job, get married and have a fulfilling life. My parents migrated from Europe post-war and could see even being new Australians, as they were termed back then, the challenge that they had faced, and they were born normal. So before I started school, I was quite the extroverted child. I was very mischievous and would constantly be getting into trouble due to my curious and inquisitive nature. And it's probably no wonder I became a scientist by trade. I loved putting on dance shows and singing shows in the lounge room. for my parents and dreamed about being on a TV show called Young Talent Time. So for those Aussies who are in the room, you might remember that show, right? It's only young. Anyway, so when I turned 5, I started school. Oblivious to my parents' concern that I mentioned earlier, I recall being really excited and proud to be wearing my new uniform and my shiny black shoes and getting to make some new friends. Plus, being the youngest of 4 and all of my siblings are baby boomers, it was great to be able to go out and meet people my own age, someone to play with. So as I sat there in the class looking around the room to see who I'd make my new best friend, all the kids in the class were looking at me in a way I've never seen before. I had stares, I had glares. Some kids even made remarks and making funny faces at me, like as if to mimic my deformed lip. That was the moment that I began to feel that there was something wrong with me and that my peers didn't like me. This was the beginning of my realisation that being my authentic self was bad. Most of the teasing came from the boys in the class. I had a few nicknames for me that they substituted for my real name, so I was pretty lucky. So I had names such as Fat Lip and Train Tracks because of the scars. The name teasing was also peppered by physical assaults in the playground, where my shins would be constantly kicked and at times to the point of bleeding. In the 1st grade, I plucked up the courage to tell my teacher of the kicking that was occurring in the playground. Instead, my teacher scolded me and pointing at the door saying, "Go away, don't tell tattletales." I was instantly shocked, embarrassed and ashamed for being me. That was the moment that I realised that who I was this abnormal, ugly girl that didn't have a voice, that I deserved to be treated less than everyone else, and that being my authentic self was wrong. So from that day on, I kept silent. I kept my head down and tried to remain invisible as much as humanly possible. I lived with fear and anxiety on a daily basis, but not that I knew that at the time. So for most of my life, I was not able to be my authentic self because my authentic self was not accepted by others. Society places large emphasis on looks, and this was something I couldn't hide from. So as a coping mechanism, I focused on my studies and my career instead, trying to better myself as much as possible to move away from that scared little girl. Thinking that by being educated with degrees, lots of degrees and lots of education would somehow cure my self-doubt. Anyway, fast forward today. The consequences of that teacher's actions that day and the constant bullying and belittling that I suffered during my primary school years skewed my perception of myself and who I was labelled to be. I had learned to survive in the real world through that lens and the actions that followed, and some of you might resonate with this. I became a people pleaser, seeking approval. I was worried about what other people thought of me. I valued other people's opinions above my own because I wanted to be liked and fit in. I allowed people to overstep my boundaries. I allowed my feelings to be discounted by others. I constantly compared myself to others because for me that was a sense of a normal benchmark. I became a perfectionist. I became overly critical of myself and would punish myself on occasions if I didn't perform the best of my ability. I saw seeing failure as a negative, picking the wrong relationships because I didn't feel like I was good enough, and focusing on the externals such as success, achievement and recognition, rather than on my values, beliefs and what made me a holistic person. But with all these behaviours and these actions that I had, it still didn't make me feel confident. But it wasn't until 2016 I was challenged in the workplace. I had a co-worker that bullied me in a passive-aggressive style for 7 months, which turned into 2 verbal assaults. And we were both senior managers in clinical operations within the pharmaceutical companies. So, being in the pharmaceutical industry is a tough gig. Anyway, I reported her behaviour, and the outcome was that we had a differing of management styles and they swept everything under the carpet. Now, for many nights, I sat and I tossed and turned about the verdict of what happened and replayed the scenario in my head over and over to work out how there could have been a better outcome to this scenario. Why couldn't I just move on? Then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. All these years I was chasing the carrot at the end of the stick, trying to prove myself and others that I'm worthy and that I am good enough, allowing those actions above to move me further away from my true essence. But that bullying incident at work triggered me back to how I felt when I was shamed by my teacher when I was 6 years old, and that my feelings, my truth, were dismissed as untruths. Those very same feelings and scenario played out again, but this time I was 40 and not 6. This time I had the power to change how the story ends. I had a choice. I could either sit there in silence, head down and do my job, or I could take the road less travelled and stand up for myself. So I decided to be the girl I needed to be when I was 6. I was a force to be reckoned with. I stood up with confidence and radiated my authentic self. I resigned from my job. As a senior manager within the pharmaceutical industry, whose job was to uphold the corporate values, how could I sit there and accept that behaviour? If I couldn't take an ethical stand, what hope do the employees beneath me have in feeling safe to come to work and make an impact in the world? But anyway, after I resigned, they walked me the next day. But I had my head held high. I walked out as a victor on my terms and not as a victim. It was the most empowering moments of my life. The moral of my story was that all these years I thought it was my career that defines me as a person and who I am. But in the end, it was my beliefs and values. I discovered during my lowest point in my career, my highest values were realised, that of integrity and injustice. So out of the fire, No Limits Consulting was born. I learned the hard way how to build confidence in myself, and again, it's still a struggle every single day, and how to align my inner values and beliefs to my life. I've created the limited edition Leadership Academy for 16-year-old girls to give them the power to be themselves, to have courage to overcome bullies, and to live life with no limits. My mission is to engage and ignite these emerging leaders through my 5 leadership principles for life, through experience, expertise, and exposure. And so if anyone would like to know further information, please come and see me. And I thank you all for your time today and listening to my story. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Show us your confidence, ladies and gents.
Cheese.
Cheese. One more. Oh yeah. Sexy. Oh yeah.